this segment, we're going to look at how to select and appoint a legal guardian for your child. As the parents of a minor child, you have primary legal responsibility for that child. But you have to plan for the unforeseen and sometimes unthinkable. Now, if your minor child should become an orphan because of your untimely death before they are an adult, you have a legal responsibility to appoint someone who can step into your shoes and act as their legal guardian. Now, let's face it, being a legal guardian for someone else's child, that's a big responsibility. They will be responsible to raise your child, to select where that child is going to live, and to provide for their health, their protection, and their welfare. So it's incumbent upon you to select carefully who should be the guardian of your child. Let's look at the traits that that person should have. Well, first of all, you want someone who you know would be reliable, someone you can count on, because after all, they are responsible for the protection of your child until your child is a grown-up. Second, you want a person who has personal integrity and has the right kind of core values that you would want to be transmitted to your child in the household where your child is living. You want that person that you select to have the right kind of values, the way that you would raise the child, with good standards, with good care, and with personal honor and integrity. Now, as you know, raising a child is not cheap. It costs money. And you need to make sure that the legal guardian has access to a source of funds that can be used to pay for things like dental work and braces and prom dresses and trips for vacation, and to pay for school activities like scouting or football game uniforms and that sort of thing. You want the child to have what you want to provide for them, and usually a life insurance policy should be sufficient to do that if it's of enough size to provide for that child all the way to adulthood. Now, one smart way to go is to have the person who's responsible for the child be appointed as the legal guardian, but have the person who is in charge of the money possibly another person, maybe a bank or a trust company or a trusted relative who can serve as trustee of any monies that you might leave behind to provide for your child. Now, typically in providing for a child who is a minor, I like to see certain provisions put into the trust, because that is the person who's going to be handling the funds necessary to raise your child. At the same time, the person who is the legal guardian, the person who's actually raising the child, having that child live with them, they might or might not be the trustee. That is your choice. Now, in choosing a guardian, there's a special consideration if the guardian is married. You know, sometimes people divorce, and the last thing you want is for your child to be the subject of a child custody dispute if a married couple are the legal guardians, the joint legal guardians for that child. So one way to avoid that is that think of the person in that marriage that you would like to have primary responsibility for the child if they divorce, and go ahead and choose that person as your first choice. Now, you could name their spouse as a second choice, and if that's all right with you should they divorce, that's fine. You've made a good decision. Now, normally where you would designate the person or persons who would be the legal guardians for your child is in your last will and testament. And when I prepare an estate plan for a client, such as a living trust estate plan, I always put that provision into the will so that if something happens to you, you have pre-designated who it is that you want to have legal responsibility to raise your child. And the good news is you can always change your mind and update that document as time goes on. Now, I do have a special report intended to help clients to decide and select who should be the legal guardian for their child. If you'd like a copy of it, just ask me. I'll be glad to send it to you. Just a final thought for parents who are trying to decide who should be the legal guardian. I do recommend that you have a first choice, a second choice, and a third choice, just in case something should happen to your first or second choice. Whoever you choose, choose someone who has responsibility, good judgment, maturity, and good values. After all, this is the person who's going to have tremendous influence on your minor child through their childhood, their preteen years, their teenage years, and on into their adult life. So choose wisely and choose carefully. If you'd like my assistance with thinking this through, I'm glad to help you. I'm attorney Michael Potter, and I look forward to hearing from you.